You're listening to The Night Before, a movie podcast. Each episode, we find a unique place in the city and share a drink and our thoughts about the movie we watched the night before. This is Lee, and I am joined, as always, by my husband, Jesse. Okay.
On this episode, I also want to talk about the woman sitting next to us in the movie theater with her to-go meal.
She was more sitting next to me than you. And as soon as, well, first of all, did you see, are we recording?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, did you see that she had a seat down below?
Yeah, she moved. That part's less annoying.
And I don't mean to be rude, because I'm pretty accepting
She's
of
movie
most
hopping.
people. But she's movie hopping. She's not sitting in the seat she purchased. Whatever. I'm not going to be nitpicky.
Yeah, you're just being mean.
But she's got bags.
No, my only comment was, but it's a food order.
And the movie's already started.
No, but we sneak in like a bag of M&Ms and a thermos of coffee.
Well, she had like an Outback order.
Yeah, she had an Outback to-go bag that she just walked all in. Why are we working so hard to smuggle food in is my question.
I don't know. And she sits down like 2 seats from me and starts like unpacking her food.
I just wanted to make the joke about her food order. I know she was annoying, but.
I mean, I smuggled in my coffee again.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And some M&Ms.
Uh-huh. I know, it was good. It was fun.
It was nice to have a warm cup of coffee today.
Well, we watched a 3-hour movie, so you need something more than
3+ hours.
You need something to keep you going.
It's gonna be interesting.
All right, now, so where are we at?
So excuse me, we are at Hampton Station in Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
It's a kind of, they have beer and pizza.
It's a pizza place that serves beer, or a beer place that serves pizza.
Beers.
You can go either which way. They don't brew anything here.
You know, it's not a brewery,
it's one
but
of
they
those,
do typically carry really good beers here.
Yeah, it's one of those converted gas station type buildings.
Type pizza places that we like.
Into a pizza place.
It's
bar.
funny because a couple years ago they put a big sign on the door that says.
I was going to say, we don't have to worry about any children messing up our podcast, as sometimes you hear them screaming in the background.
They don't allow children.
Coffee shops and breweries. This place got national attention a couple years ago because of its no children policy.
Right. And I think it was based on, it's on a busier road.
Yeah, we're sitting right next to the road in the outside area.
It was based on some incident happened.
Yeah, there was a DJ. There were kids running around crazy.
Parents not paying attention Kids.
It's really not Hampton's fault, but it's a liability. So they're like, you know what? No more kids.
No more kids. And they've done fine.
Yeah, and in some ways it's really nice.
And we like to
be
come
around with kids.
when we don't have kids.
Oh, sorry, kids. You can't come with us. We're going to Hampton Station. You're going to stay at home.
We enjoy it.
We get you Domino's.
So we don't mind that rule.
Okay, so we have the movie Drive My Car we're going to talk about.
Drive My Car we saw today.
The main point. We missed a few. We haven't even talked about a couple films. We're trying to run through a lot of the Oscars stuff too.
We've seen quite a few films that we didn't necessarily podcast on.
So yeah, we saw Coda. We saw Power of the Dog.
Mm-hmm.
A long time ago, we saw Licorice Pizza.
We did. We've talked about the fact that
we've
seen that.
Don't Look Up.
Mm-hmm.
So we're seeing we're trying to see all of the Best Picture nominations.
Mm-hmm.
We will see them all, but since we missed some of those not available to podcast, we'll just save our thoughts. We'll do a right before Oscar. We'll do our sort of
Oscar rundown.
Thoughts and predictions.
Yeah, we'll do a prediction episode. But we did see a movie last night,
mm-hmm.
and today.
Yeah, we're doing one. We're doing one night before, one
day of.
Night of. So, but yeah, I think the bulk of this talk will be about Drive My Car, because that is one of the Best Picture contenders.
It is, and
what some people say is a front runner.
Yeah, and I took a nap before we went because I really needed to prepare myself for a 3-hour movie.
We wanted to see Belfast only because it's an hour and a half long versus 3 hours, but
I wasn't as excited to see that, and hopefully it'll surprise me. But I was anxious to see Drive My Car, but we didn't say what we were drinking.
No, but we're jumping all over the place. But I will say,
we are jumping all
Drive
over
My
the
Car
place.
Also is going to be on HBO Max soon.
Yeah.
beginning of March. So folks will get a chance to see it. And we're gonna talk about another movie really briefly the night before, which is Sort of Trust.
Yes.
And that's on Netflix.
And we saw that at home on Netflix.
So I always like to give that up front so if folks want to go watch them real quick.
Yeah.
So I think neither one of these are going to be that spoilerly at all. There's no real spoilers in either one of these. But before that, we're still at Hampton Station. We're going to order some pizza in a minute.
They have really good pizza here, and we're drinking Magnanimous, which we've podcasted from there before, but they have a double IPA from Magnanimous here called After the Rain.
After the Rain.
And it's really good.
It's good. Yeah, I mean, it's nothing. We're not doing anything drinking anything exotic today or crazy.
No, we're not doing anything different, but
it's a cool little place. You know, it's also fun. We always like to mention this because we know it's one of your. Was it one of your bottom 5 movies? If I lean in my chair, I can see one of the key locations from the film Zola.
Yeah. So we're
right
on Nebraska, which is infamous.
Like right where they filmed that balcony
it's
scene.
It's near our house, but especially in the past, this street has got some bad press, but we like it. It's home.
Yeah, I was just bringing that point up.
It's home.
You don't have to.
I know, but you know how I feel about that.
No, I just said it's
Zola.
Neat. We're at a.
We've already covered that in a podcast.
A film landmark. That's all I was pointing out.
Anyway, anywho.
Much like our movie lady in the theater, I was just pointing out that she brought a big old Outback dinner with her to the theater.
So that I will elaborate on it.
And we're trying to smuggle in some
coffee,
peanut butter M&Ms or something. You got Twizzlers like stuffed under your shirt trying to get in the theater.
We don't have to pay $10 for Twizzlers.
And here she comes just like carrying the bag. I was impressed. Her phone went off multiple times. I'm like, I love the boldness of this woman.
She didn't really care about anyone else around her enjoying the film. She was just into her setup.
You know how I was forgiving her? I forgave her immensely because once she was by herself.
I forgave her.
Number 2, I'm like, she's sitting through a 3-hour drive my car movie in Japanese, Korean, and in sign language.
True.
So she's pretty great by my book.
She was ready. She had her whole life with her.
She really did. Okay, so let's. I think quickly because you wanted to talk about this maybe more than I did.
I did, yeah. I liked it more than you did.
But let's be clear. I want people to know, even though we try not to just talk directly at folks, but we watch. There's a lot of movies always on. Like even we've watched a couple other films that
we haven't mentioned. Yeah.
But like, because we watch stuff and then like, oh, we're not going to talk about that. Like, I watched the 1990 film Johnny Mnemonic this morning.
Oh, and The Cleaner.
And we watched the 2003 or something.
I fell asleep at the end of that, but
Samuel L. Jackson, Eva Longoria, Ed Harris thriller, The Cleaner.
Yeah. So we watch a lot of movies that are good. We don't like, whatever, but we can't possibly podcast about them all.
No, but I was bringing it up because we watch stuff and then we don't even think to podcast about it. And I kind of lumped Sort of Trust in that from last night. And you're like, oh, I really want to talk about Sort of Trust.
So I had never heard of it.
What you were looking at is a genuine relic that supports the actual truth, which is the South won the war.
Okay. The South won the war?
That's right. This is something you want to keep under your hat till you're ready to
seems like pretty big news.
Best way to do this is through concrete evidence.
Is this Antique Roadshow for racists?
Up to 50,000.
This is going to be like lighthearted and funny. I was kind of tired when we got home.
It was a Friday night movie. But
I was just tired from the day.
So what I've been trying to do slowly is I put stuff in my list and my queues and all the various streaming services all the time. So sometimes it's like, I'm just going to start something on the list. And Sort of Trust has been in there.
And occasionally I'm like, nope, not even getting into this.
Yeah.
Occasionally I just get like sucked in.
Well, that's how we got.
And
That's how
Sort
we
of
ended up
Trust was
watching
one of those.
Cleaner the other night, and now
True.
Sort of Trust. So this was in my list mainly because Marc Maron stars in it,
Yeah.
of the WTF podcast.
So
And he's this.
I was going to ask you, what podcast does he do?
Yeah, WTF.
Because I know he does a podcast.
Yeah.
And you listen to that.
Occasionally, not
What
often.
is WTF?
That's the name of his podcast.
What does that mean?
You don't know what WTF stands for.
Oh, does it mean what I think it means?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he's not using it
It's a
like...
clean podcast.
Okay. I'm not being facetious. I mean, everybody knows what that means, but
Yes.
is he using that as a double entendre?
Yes.
Is what I'm saying.
Well, Marc Maron has been doing podcasts for ages.
Okay. I like him
It's known.
a lot.
He was a comedian, stand-up comedian for a long time, still
Yeah.
does stand-up,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But he's known that he does it in his garage.
Oh, the podcast?
Yeah, he has like kind of
Okay.
attached garage, mother-in-law suite type thing.
Okay.
And he, obviously wasn't the first person to ever do it. But now you have all these celebrities, all these Will Arnett's, all these Jason Batemans,
Hey,
all of
Don't
these.
slash on my smart list.
No, but I joke about
Or my,
it. Armchair expert,
armchair.
Dax. No, but he was definitely kind of ahead of the curve with doing this thing.
Yeah.
And it's the same format as, I make fun of them, but it's that same format of those guys where it's just really an in-depth conversation about, for an hour plus, whoever he talks with.
Okay.
Marc Maron.
I'll have to check it out because I like him.
Yeah.
I know that you listen to that podcast sometimes.
And he really gets into
I
his talks.
haven't.
And he's known because he did Barack Obama at one
okay.
point.
Yeah.
But he's done huge celebrities and then he slowly reappears. He reappears in small little films and
This is like
Here
a
and
little
then.
indie film, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
directed by
Shelton,
Lynn Shelton,
who's dead. We just
who recently died in
figured out.
2020
Which is so
of
sad.
leukemia.
Leukemia.
Yeah.
Wow. Because unfortunately, when you hear of someone dying between the
You
year of
think it's
2019
either
and
COVID or
you think it was of COVID or complications with
or
COVID
head trauma.
That was
It was surprising that that's what killed Bob Saget.
very surprising.
Um,
But anyway, she directed a film that we both liked.
No, we didn't like this. I didn't like this other film.
I liked it.
Laggies?
Did I like it?
No, we didn't. It was an A24 film.
Laggies, yeah.
No, I remember we thinking it wasn't that great.
Oh, okay. I don't remember.
But maybe your memory's fond of it.
I don't remember, but I remember the name of the film and us watching it, but I didn't remember if we felt good about it or not
But
good about
Laggies
it.
came out before
I think it was
this.
fun. It was a
It was
fun
all right.
film. Yeah.
The Laggies came out in like 2014.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Now, my only real memory of Laggies was, I mean, A24 is not the A24 it used to be. They still put out good stuff, of course. But when I remember when seeing Laggies years ago, my thought was like, oh, everything A24 puts out isn't great.
Right. We finally met an A24 we didn't think was fabulous.
Yeah, it was a start.
Or interesting or different or quirky or whatever.
But
it was
Sort of
just
Trust you liked.
Oh, I remember Laggies now. Yes. Sort of Trust. I really got into it. I liked it. I liked the humor. As tired as I was, it kept me awake. I was entertained. I was absorbed by it. I loved it.
Well, to the
It
part
was
about being
funny.
absorbed, there's the little clip which comes in about 30 or 40 minutes into the film that Netflix shows you. But even watching the first minute, like when Marc Maron has his first scene,
He's a really good actor.
that's when I was like, oh yeah, let's watch this. It's
I mean,
funny.
he's a really good actor, and just the concept of it was really funny. I thought
He runs a pawn shop.
Yeah, he runs a pawn shop, and these two girls come in. Their grandfather is, or one of them's grandfather has died, and they bring a sword in that happens, that they say has something on it that proves that the South actually won the Civil War.
Well, it's from
For
the Civil.
conspiracy
It's a Union
theorists.
sword
Yeah.
from the Civil War. The
They
grandfather.
don't necessarily believe that.
But the grandfather leaves this weird, rambling letter
Cryptic letter.
that kind of insinuates, oh, this proves that
The South,
the
won
South
the
actually
Civil
won
War.
the Civil War.
Yeah.
And then what I thought was interesting about the movie, right, it's all sort of bookend around this idea of conspiracy theories or
Provers. Is that what it's called?
a prover item, yeah.
A prover item, yeah.
But throughout it, right, the movie opens with someone talking about hollow Earth theory. I don't know if you're aware of this.
No,
There's a
think I missed
theory,
that.
much like flat Earth theory, that the Earth is flat, which is in the movie as well.
Yeah.
Hollow Earth theory is about a theory that the center of the Earth is hollow.
Oh.
And that there is a whole ecosystem and world inside the center of the Earth. In fact, it was actually featured in like a recent Godzilla versus King Kong movie.
Okay. Well, I thought, his role is like this, like
Maron's.
weird. Yeah, Maron's role as the pawn shop owner that really kind of like fell into being a pawn shop owner. Wasn't like kind of your
There's a really
owner.
serious scene in the middle of the movie where he talks what happened.
How he became a pawn shop owner.
Which is good. It was a good little scene. It's tonally, it's kind of out of left field for the movie, but I think it works overall.
And the two girls, I thought, did a good job. The brown-headed girl, what's her name? The actress?
Like Michelle Watkins?
I've seen her on other things. I can't remember what I've seen her on, but I really like her a lot. And again, I can't remember what I've seen her on, but I like her a lot. And I just think it just developed into this fun, like easy to follow, easy to laugh at, humorous, siding on almost ridiculous.
And it was 88 minutes long.
And it was short. It was lovely. I had such a fun time watching that movie.
No, fun cast, fun movie. And even though it brings up this ideas about all this conspiracy theories and how that kind of plays out on the internet, and the South actually won the war, hollow Earth, flat Earth, all these conspiracies.
And they kind of poke fun at like the people that believe.
They do, but what also is nice is they poke fun at both sides of it.
Yeah.
And it's never mean-spirited. It's never like, oh, let's mock these people who believe these theories. It's not seriously trying to figure out how these people come to believe these things.
Right now, that's so relevant, too.
Yeah. Well, no, I think it was when it was made, too.
With the COVID, with the Trump, the whole...
No, but even when this came out, like 2019, it was...
Yeah. In that time, all this stuff...
Yeah.
There's always been conspiracy theorists, but currently there's just been more, and it's more in the media and whatnot.
But what I thought was nice about it, which was fun, it kept it quirky and light. It never became judgmental.
No.
It never became mean-spirited.
Yeah.
It never poked fun, really, at either side too much.
Not overly, no.
And it just didn't feel like, even like nowadays when you say it's relevant, even things that are bogus or weird or outrageous, right? A lot of times, I think because of the nature of social media and TikTok and the algorithm, they say it's so often it's so mean-spirited and
that's
like
true.
It's even like Aziz Ansari on that new stand-up special on Netflix, which is really good.
Yeah,
we watched that
really
recently.
Good. That was really good.
Quick 30 minutes.
That was really funny.
He talks a bit about like that same idea. Like you can't just be so mean-spirited and hateful about even the things you don't believe.
I know.
Take a minute to like understand other people. And I felt this movie did that in a way.
And I felt when I watched that, jumping to that for a second, I loved his take on things, but I also felt for him. Like I felt like he feels so much about this stuff. Like I feel like he's so into all of, he takes it in so much. I kind of felt bad for him in a way. Like,
well, he obviously thinks about it.
He thinks about it a lot.
Talked about social media and how he's off of it all. But he's also a person that early on, years ago, probably around the time of this film, 2018, 2019, he had to deal with internet backlash.
Oh, okay.
And he was very open about it, but just about his presumptuous nature of himself when he was on some dates with women.
Oh, okay.
And they came back on him for that.
haunt
And
him,
that he kind of
yeah.
said, hey, my bad. I was not as aware as I should be. So I think that influences a bit of where he's at.
Gotcha. His cynical nature on things.
Yeah. But anyway, so I think Sort of Trust is good. I don't think we need to labor on it too much.
No, that was a good movie, good watch.
I really liked it.
It
Did
was
you know
cute.
Lynn Shelton, the director, was in the film as well?
Oh, no, I did not know that.
Who do you think she was?
I don't know.
There wasn't many characters.
Oh, the wife, the ex-wife.
The ex-wife, girlfriend, wife. They got married, right?
Such a little sad.
The Deidre character.
Yeah, they
who
were
was,
married. That was such a sad little part of the story, but it made, you know what I loved about it?
which this is going to be, I'm going to let you say this thought, and
Okay,
I'm going to say.
you know what I'm going to say,
eh,
but.
No, I'm not, but then I'm going to let you think about this. This is the perfect segue and connection to Drive My Car.
Yes,
Go on.
it is, but. You know what makes me really love movies? And now that you brought the wife
The
up.
cinematography.
No.
Okay.
That's you.
No, I'm just joking.
Actually, that does add to it for me, but when I can deeply care about the characters, and I've said this before in podcasts.
Well, Maron
And
did that in that scene in the car.
Maron did that, and the wife added to that.
Mhm,
The fact that it was such a kind of a
She
tragic,
She shows up at the very beginning of the movie asking him for money.
and just his reaction to her and his feeling towards her, and just kind of seeing her later in the movie, he kind of looks over and knows she's kind of just lost. And
Well, Marc Maron,
but he
I don't know
loves
if you
her.
know this, somebody who also struggled with addiction and drugs earlier in
But
his
that
career.
felt so raw and real, and it gave depth in this comedy light movie.
About a
it
Civil War
gave-
sword, yeah.
Yeah, it gave some real depth to the characters, and that's what made it better than your typical like light-hearted comedy.
Yeah.
So that's why
so
I
that's
liked
who
it
that,
so much.
That's
yeah.
who she was. She played that role.
Yeah. Okay, I can see that. Gotcha. That was a good character.
And I think we're gonna
Transition.
we'll probably throw to a sound clip from Drive My Car here in a second.
Okay.
On the potty, we'll tell our producer staff, which is me, to put that in, and maybe we'll get a refill on our drinks and order our pizzazz
Okay. Let's do it.
for the podcast. But no, one thing I think we can circle back to. Yes, there's a piece about a car, that character, Deidre's character, Maron, getting her car fixed. So she could say that is the Drive My Car connection, but it really isn't.
The car. Okay.
I was thinking
I didn't put that together.
one of my notes for Drive My Car.
The wife.
It's our teaser. Well, a wife, but I'm thinking more of the connections and relationships we have with people and their lasting effect, whether or not they're still in our life or out of our life.
Oh, that's
that we
so
never
true.
let go of this. And
that's
that
really
is what
significant right now.
that part entered into Sort of Trust.
Your experience with people in your life,
However
have
long
a
or short.
profound effect on
And
who
that's
you
the
are.
point of- that's the point
on
of
who
Sort of
you
Trust.
are.
And that's what Maron's, we won't go into it much, but that's Maron's super serious scene where his connection with her forever changed his life.
Absolutely.
And that he is forever connected to her the rest of his life.
And not just because he's semi still in love with her, but I know just in our lives, people that have been in our lives that
Yeah.
are not in our lives anymore, whether, have a profound effect on who we are, how we react to things, how we try to move forward as human beings, and how it just has profound effects on
But also your
that.
general responsibility towards your sense, your feeling of responsibility towards a person.
Yeah. If you're a decent human being.
Yeah, if you're a decent human being. Or, yeah. So we'll get to that. And I felt that was a neat little connection. And one of my big takeaways from, even though it's only been about an hour or so since Drive My Car.
Yeah.
But it was a long movie, so I had 3 hours to think about it
So
while
we
I was
haven't-
watching it.
We haven't let it digest too much, but I was thinking about talking about it as I was watching it.
Wow.
So I'm
So
ready.
let's do this. We're going to throw to a little sound clip.
Okay.
We're going to pause, get a refill, get
Good
our pizza
idea.
order in,
Gotcha.
and then we'll talk Drive My Car.
Okay.
どうした？
いや、俺家福さんと一体何の話してんだろうって。元さんはきっと幸せでしたね。家福さんみたいな人が旦那さんで。
どうだろ
もしよかったら僕に音さんのことを何か話してくれませんか？
音のこと？
お二人の馴れ初めとか、どんな風に本を書かれていたのかとか、普段の会話でも何でもいいんです。
君はこう考えてる。僕たちは同じ悲しみを共有してる。同じ女を愛したから。
そんな、僕のはただの一方的な憧れです。
君は音に恋をしていた。
否定しません。
So, Driving Miss Daisy Part 2.
I thought that.
No,
I
you
was like,
didn't.
this is like Japanese driving Stacy.
Only in concept. Do you remember Driving Miss Daisy?
I mean, the concept of it. I don't remember.
Morgan Freeman driving. I was trying to remember that lady's name.
The older lady, Jessica something.
Yeah, I kept thinking.
I think it is Jessica
I kept
something.
thinking Angela Lansbury, and that wasn't it.
I'm gonna have to look it up. Wait, because I want to know if I'm right. Hold on.
This is really slowing us down here.
Is it?
Not really. So drive my car.
Yeah, talk.
I will tell you this as you're looking up Jessica Lansbury on the thing.
Lansbury?
No, it's not Jessica Lansbury.
Jessica Tandy.
Jessica Tandy. That's 100%
I got that
what
right.
it is.
It was Jessica.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
No, this was a pleasant surprise. I will say this about Drive My Car. Was excited to see it because everybody's talking it's going to be great.
Mm-hmm.
Was a little apprehensive just because of the run length.
You were really apprehensive because of the run length. And you know what? I prepped.
Yeah, you took a nap.
I did a pre-movie nap.
No.
And I woke up feeling like, I can do this. I'm excited. And we went to the movies at 2:15 in the afternoon.
I'm really not bothered by long movies. It just seems that so many movies are long these days.
It's true. It's true.
But no, I was pleasantly surprised that it wasn't really about what I thought it was, even though I'd watched the trailer. I had somehow thought, I knew his wife dies, because that's the premise of the film, his wife dies. And I thought it was somehow, because his wife died, there was this weird tradition, mourning process of
I didn't think it was about that.
Someone, I couldn't understand, why is this young person driving his car?
Yeah.
So I thought it had something to do with the mourning and loss of his wife.
I thought it was more of a mystery of how did his wife die, who killed his wife, and the young girl had kind of part in working out this mystery, but it wasn't that either.
It's none of those things.
No. I'm going to say this.
Okay, say something.
I had no expectation of this movie.
Well, that's something. That was my only expectation. I just knew it was going to be really good.
I have known that foreign Japanese, well, I don't say Japanese, let me say Asian in general, because Korean.
We know the stuff that makes it to America, Japanese cinema and South
really
Korean cinema is really, really good.
South Korean cinema.
No, one of my favorite films, which you have yet to see, is Japanese One Cut of the Dead. Still one of my favorite films I've seen in a long time.
I saw portions of it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We walked out of it during a film festival, by the way.
We did.
Yeah. Before I saw it the first time. Fully.
So I didn't have expectation, but we did watch the trailer right before we went to the movie. Pre-movie nap.
Well, we were evaluating Drive My Car, Belfast. What's going to win?
So once I saw that, I'm like, I'm in. This is going to be good. I'm in. But I think it's going to win the Oscar for best
I don't know.
movie.
I'm not there yet. I don't know if it's the Oscar winner.
I think it was a fantastic movie.
I think it was really good. I think, I got to digest it a little bit more. and we'll come back to our Oscar
Well, we'll
special.
do an Oscar prediction episode.
When we dress up and we do our
I
Oscar
haven't
special.
seen all the Oscar movies, so that's really preemptive for me to say, but
I'm going to say this, and we're not going to talk about it. I mean, Drive My Car and Power the Dog, they're going to get in a little wrestling match, and we'll save that for the Oscar show.
Okay. We did watch Drive My Power the Dog.
Yeah, we did. You know what is impressive? It blew me out of my chair for a moment.
What?
And I said, okay, I really like what we're doing here at this Drive My Car movie.
Yes.
Right? So much so that you even turned to me and said, in the theater, what is going on right now?
Oh, the credits, yes.
35 to 45 minutes into the film.
It was about 45 minutes. You're gonna, okay.
What? The table. It's just the little Ricky table.
Sorry.
No, so 30 to 45 minutes into the film, it basically does a prologue. It's a prologue, like a book.
But you think this is the film? Because it's 45 minutes.
Well, no. What it does is, so 45 minutes into it, music kicks in for the first time, really. Like, not atmospheric music, this kind of neat. The soundtrack, some of it is really great. Whenever it pops in, this is like jazzy piano soundtrack that's really upbeat.
Yeah.
So much so we listened to it on the drive home.
Yeah.
I made the joke like, here, I'll recreate 45 minutes of the movie just staring at the road. 45 minutes in, this cool piano jazz song kicks in from the soundtrack. And opening title credits start.
I'm like, what is happening? Why are the credits going? Is the movie over? I'm like, no, it is just beginning.
No, that's what it's saying. It's like, buckle in, no pun intended.
Buckle in.
Right?
This movie has just begun, and we are
like,
45 minutes in
already. You've been sitting for 45 minutes. Normally be halfway through a film. We haven't even started.
This is the prologue. That was the prologue.
I was watching it, and it was just like, drive my car, bitch. It's like, boom, let's go.
Yeah. I'm like, what? Why are they putting all these names up?
Our pizza might be showing up.
Because you think you're halfway into the movie already.
Yeah,
Thank
good.
you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Pizza just showed up.
Pizza just showed up.
Like the title credits in Drive My Car.
Yeah.
I'm going to let it cool for a minute myself.
Yeah, okay.
No, so that was the first thing. Even though I was really getting into the prologue, and obviously the prologue is leading up to the moment. It's not right when his wife dies, but it's establishing his life with his wife
before,
and the film is really about life after his wife.
Yeah.
Years after.
Yeah.
But that prologue was so great.
Yeah.
And so when it.
Well, because you got to know his wife.
Yeah.
Intimately.
No, you did. And you got to know, and I don't want to get into it too much, but if you said earlier, like, is this a mystery? It explores, like, really knowing a person.
Yeah.
And because you don't feel super, I mean, you feel sad for him that his wife is dead.
I felt sad for him, yeah.
But at the same time, you don't really understand the complexity of their relationship.
Right. No, yeah.
Till the very end of the film.
I mean, I feel like I understood the complexity of their relationship. I mean, before the end of the film. I mean, you can tell just by, the way he reacts. I don't know what we're giving away and what we're not giving away, but the way he reacts to her infidelity, can we even say that? Yeah.
Oh, you did.
That they have this.
That's all in the prologue.
He doesn't want to lose her, mess things up with her, so he's willing to.
I think you are jumping a bit more closer to the end, because the whole film is his. I mean, it's a film. One of the things I wrote in my notes, and I guess we can start there, and this whole idea of driving, and I think we all know about people. Heck, I've done it in the past, where you like drive just to kind of work out your thoughts,
clear your head, or
and
whatnot.
to get away from things. So there's definitely a big chunk about. I wrote, like in my notes, grief and guilt. It's just about a film dealing with all that grief and guilt. as it relates to loved ones in your life and decisions you made and actions you made in the past. And there's a number of characters, not just the main character, who are wrestling with his guilt,
with how they reacted,
how he handled himself during the life of that person, but then also his grief, processing his grief, but then also dealing with his guilt as well.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to pause eating the pizza. You got to have, as one of the other things about the movie was control of one's emotions.
Self-control.
And there were two things, because there's this young man who was also infatuated with his wife, and the husband, obviously, was infatuated with his wife. And they were direct opposites one another. The husband
was very
symbolized he can control his emotions, control his feeling, control his impulses. And the younger man could not. He was the full extreme. He could not yield to his own passions.
How that led to his downfall, basically.
Well, just throughout his whole life, over and over again.
Yeah.
Like, in his young life. Where the other, the husband was almost a little bit too controlled, too reserved, too bottled up.
Yeah.
But I'm happy it never went to this point of just like extreme meltdown or emotional overload for him.
Me too.
It was, he's learned that, and some of it I could even attribute to Japanese culture, just the way you handle
Japanese
respect.
Culture, just being older, like kind of a more mature understanding of life and the world and in general, and really his understanding of his wife in general and what they've been through, and this was his way of keeping what he felt like they had.
But he also it's his process. He exhibited a lot of guilt.
Yeah.
And how he handled himself, just like the impulsive character had to show remorse and understand how his impulses hurt him. You're also seeing the husband how his lack of channeling his emotions and listening to himself, as he said, that he wouldn't listen to himself.
So this movie
also hurt him.
I mean, you don't realize it till the end, but this movie really is about two people processing guilt.
You're talking about the young driver.
Yeah, the driver, the young girl.
The 23-year-old driver who is also the same age
as what his daughter would be.
His daughter would have been,
because
they experienced a daughter who died early on.
I was so glad. I was so relieved. There was no and that shows, I mean, because she was his daughter's age, but still, in so many movies, people lean on the man kind of
Listen, we're eating pizza, we're not talking licorice pizza.
I know, but kind of some kind of love interest or falling into that trap of the young girl and the older grief-stricken man.
No,
and I was so glad there wasn't that there. There was such a tenderness of him looking at her as kind of an equal in processing grief, and B,
don't say it.
A daughter.
Don't say it.
Figure.
No, I think you stick with A. I don't think there was even the tendency to lean on father-daughter relationship there. That's the easy route. This was truly two people struggling with grief in their life of lost ones, and more equal in their. There's not this. There's not this. There's this parallel of the whole play that's happening in this.
Yes,
the same themes are happening in the play.
So complex. The movie is complex, but not in a complex way to understand it. Just complex in that everything is woven together so beautifully.
So I was happy that they shared their grief together over time, but that he didn't instantly become a father figure. He said one line about, if I was your father, I would say this to you. But apart from that, they helped each other through their grief as more equals. And they weren't assessing value or weight to each other's grief. I have more grief because of this, or more guilt because of this. And even though there was that connection between that she would have been the age of his daughter if his daughter lived, it didn't lean on that, oh, now he'll substitute his daughter, his absent daughter, for this
They
new.
didn't really go into the grief too much. I mean, they said a couple lines about their marriage kind of was difficult after the death of the daughter, but they didn't go into a lot about the daughter dying.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't a heavy-handed part of the movie.
No. Well, nothing in the movie truly was that heavy-handed either. I mean, when you have 3 hours, you truly are taking your time telling a story, so nothing has to be heavy-handed.
True.
Because you're not trying to force anything in there real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Another note I have is, since we're talking about this and we did that teaser before this talk, that I thought the movie overall was just the impact relationships have on your life, whether they're long or short, right? The young actor, impulsive kid, has a brief interaction with the wife and is forever kind of impacted by it and still thinks about her. And then the husband obviously had 20 plus years of marriage. And it talks about the driver and her relationship with her mother and that. But that idea of these people that come and go in your life, and then especially after they die, what is there that key line at near the end of the movie about the survivors, the living, spend the rest of their life thinking about the dead.
Yeah. Which is so true.
Yeah.
It's just, it doesn't matter if someone had an impact in your life, it doesn't matter if that impact was for 6 months, for 2 days, or for 10 years. If they made an impact in your life and changed who you were in some way, by falling in love, by raising you, by abusing you, by whatever, they changed you in some way, negative or positive, that impact is lasting and you don't ever forget, or there's a process of grief that you go through. And that was really what the movie was about, like the process of grief, whether positive or negative or whatever it is, it doesn't really matter.
And then there was the part thinking about that process and reflecting on those who have passed, is also kind of making the statement of just accepting the people in the past for what they were.
Yeah, I liked that.
Don't
try to change who they were or what your experience was with them.
Don't change your thought of them. Don't think they're more of a mystery than they really were. Like they are who they are. You know, flaws and all, right? And you can't spend your whole life thinking about
or make them into something they weren't because now they're not there.
Yeah.
Right? Like kind of I don't know what the correct word is. Martyrizing them. That's not
you kind of like, it's not martyred so much, but it's like, it's like turning them into the Virgin Mary, if you will.
Yeah.
It's like a sainthood of. So I thought that was so.
But respecting the process of grief
But that's what's neat about this. It's, everybody uses the word slow burn. You just kind of have to think about it and sit with it. That's what I mean. I have to sit with it a bit longer, see how much I really liked it. But it's all there. Is that enough to be Best Picture?
The beauty of the driving of the car, I think the beauty of that was I mean, like when you drive your car, right? Half the reason I like, if I ever take a trip by myself, I like, which is rare, well, more often a long time ago than now, but I almost love that time because you are just like alone with your thoughts for hours and hours and hours. And you can really process things, like process things going on in your life, conversations. It's almost like you play things. And the fact that the reason why they had so much time in the car was because he was required to have a driver, which was not to jump around, but which
You're
was
jumping.
Weird because the other actors weren't.
The younger actors. Well, one, he asked to be an hour away.
He asked to be an hour away because
so he could have that. Part of his process was reciting his lines.
That's what I was getting at. He asked to be an hour away.
I kept thinking too, I mean, he got in the accident. He had the glaucoma issue where he was losing sight in one of his eyes. And I thought, part of me was thinking, oh, they're not going to ever really get into it, but maybe he's a liability. They're making him have a driver without telling him. They're just saying, hey, it's for everybody, but you got to have this driver because...
But he kind of knew. You saw him look when the first time the young guy says, I have my car.
Yeah, I can drive
come
myself.
with me. The guy was kind of like, anyway.
But I also thought, if you got any point about driving, I felt the whole idea of the driver, too, is giving up some of his control and power and letting go.
Which he had a really hard time with.
He's not seeing things clearly anymore, right? His eyes don't work right. He's going blind. And it gave him a moment to really think and reflect and to really soul search. Because they said it's easy to look at, it's hard to look into the core of someone's heart. You'll never know another person's what's in their heart.
Inside their heart. Mm-hmm.
But if you really work at it, this is what it says in the movie, if you really work at it, you can see what's in your heart.
And then you respond differently to people. If
Yeah,
you can see what's in your heart, then you respond differently.
And this whole movie was about seeing that.
And that's what he did.
Yeah.
He saw what in his
and not being
heart,
a driver gave
and then
him a
he
chance
was able to
that.
respond to this driver's grief and relate to her and form a bond, a relationship.
Which what he's telling he's telling his actors the same thing.
Yes.
Look at the text of the play. Respond to the text. But see what it really is saying first.
So the driving part of this process, I think, was so relatable to everyday Americans driving your car, long trips. It's kind of like a thinking process. And that's what it became. It became his grief process with her, who had someone to, unbeknownst to him for a long time, was processing things on her own, and then they came together in that process.
I agree.
Which I think was just you didn't know where this movie was going, and I loved that about it. Like, you just didn't know what the point was or where they were going, and it came together so beautifully, and I really liked that about it.
Yeah, just a film about the process of grief and guilt. I kind of figured where it would end with the whole play. I knew it'd kind of have to go there.
Yeah.
With his role within the play and directing it. So that was a little predictable, but it didn't take anything away from it. The other powerful piece of it, too, before I get to a couple of my more just superficial notes and takeaways, just the other idea of this idea of silence and quiet, which is funny because many, 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 many years ago, right? I'd written something of my own and even named a musical project after it called The Quiet. Basically about that, the overwhelming power of silence. And when it's so silent, all the other sounds, even if they're ambient noise, is powerful. And the wife talks about this early in the film, about the silence, the deafening silence, if you will. And then the movie even plays around with sound later. And there's even one section where it just...
the sound goes away.
It cuts off all
when
audio.
they go into her hometown.
Yeah, the drivers.
Yeah. Because it's a place of peace. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
She's feeling like this
But it goes
is a
to your
peaceful place
point, too, of just sitting, thinking, having that space just with you, the
How
silence.
powerful that is.
Yeah.
Can be
So
really
that was
powerful.
my other part that I really liked. That talk, that moment of just listening and having the lack of sound be powerful.
Yeah, I agree with that. And in that same thought, I don't know why it brings me to this thought, but what I really enjoyed about the husband-wife relationship, even though it was flawed and not great, was their deep kind of connection and understanding of each other. Like, and some of that comes with their art and their work and the fact that they listen and they're writers and they're, whatever. But also it just was like kind of a
It brought up, not to interrupt you, it brought up an interesting thought about just the choices you make with a person, right? And with a relationship. And this one had, I think for most people, some pretty big deal breakers in there, right? But it talks about the choices you make. Like for him, the choice not to have children.
right.
The choice of infidelity and all these things.
Not to have more children. Yeah.
And most of those are deal breakers for folks.
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of talks about how do you manage and deal with those
Well,
choices. But he even says, I've made certain choices to be with you.
What it puts in the spotlight is love above everything. That if you truly love someone, you're not just in it for the check it off the box. Like I can have a family and have this home and this. That you're in it because you love that person.
But at the same time, which it probably
what.
It probably need to be seen a bit more on another viewing, right? Is looking at it solely from his perspective, right? Was he also codependent on her? Like, was he? Because that's part of his journey, like truly being what he wants.
Well, because at the end, or should we say the end?
Well, I mean that's just part of the journey.
It kind of talks about like, I should have been angry at her. I should have berated her. I should have spoken my mind about her infidelity.
So you can look at it from this side of like he was just always just taken for granted. His needs weren't being met. No. It's hard to say. Like I said, it's the thing you can look at it both ways. He says things like, she was enough for me, I wasn't enough for her, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, and that's the thing. It's even if you're in an unhealthy relationship, that's that thing about connections with people and the relationship on it. So that was my thought. Some of my, before we go too long, some of my superficial thoughts.
Okay.
Let's thought were great about this. Besides,
because you're rarely superficial, so let's hear these superficial thoughts of your. I'm the superficial one.
This movie just had some.
Typically,
this movie just had some positive triggers. Okay. One, we already said the opening title sequence in 45 minutes was just like, whoa, what's going on here? I'm in love. The music when it was used, top notch. It's just kind of like jazzy piano stuff.
I agree. I enjoyed that part of it.
But whenever it takes kind of like a neat tonal shift, it's like, oh, here's the little interlude music, buckle in for the next part.
Mm-hmm.
But the more superficial stuff was that red Saab car is like the perfect car. Like it's an instant
I love that
nostalgic
car. It was
trigger.
so initially nostalgic to me because my uncle,
the
who
cassette deck player
passed away right after our wedding a couple years ago, loved Saabs so much, and that was like my initial thought was like, a Saab. You don't see Saabs anymore.
It's just
they don't make Saabs anymore.
Like,
but
not since the DeLorean.
Well, not in America. They don't
not
make
since
Saabs.
the DeLorean has a more appropriate car been used as the centerpiece for a movie.
The car. I loved the car.
Right?
So much.
But the character, he loved the car too.
He loved it, and he put so much, care and effort into it.
I mean, and he mentions like, hey, this is an old car.
And
I've had it for
the
15
power
years.
Struggle for him to give up.
I've had this car for 15 years.
Power.
Yeah.
For someone else to drive
great.
it. Yeah. Love that. Yeah.
So that's why I wrote the red car, the Saab. Like, just having that car was great. The cassette deck, the cassette player. Early on in the movie, I'm like, is this modern day? Is this in the 90s? Is this early 2000s?
It's modern day.
It's modern. He has an iPhone. They're using Google Maps to get around or whatever.
But it still has a cassette player because it's a Saab.
Yeah, he has a MacBook Pro. You know, it's definitely modern day. Social media is a thing in it.
But his wife helped him create cassettes so that he could practice his lines in the car.
So he has
to
all
and
these
from
cassettes.
where
But
he
again,
went.
it's this idea of like you're set in your old ways. Like you're defining moments in your life are
Which
in
that
these
was
sort
really
of
a
key
cool part
moments,
of it.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was that. But I love the red car. And the other part, this is the first movie in a long time that makes smoking cool again.
True. Not that that's a good thing.
No. Not that we're going to go smoke
but
cigarettes.
You do.
Smoking cigarettes in the car and like holding the hand out the sunroof. It's just like.
That was
that
was such a sweet visual. Like, if you were ever a smoker.
Yeah.
Flipping your ash out the sunroof is a thing.
But not since John Cusack in the 1980s has like smoking been cool in a film.
Such a sweet part of it. And yeah, smoking shouldn't be cool.
But she also lets him.
But
he lets the driver.
It's not European.
He lets the driver
foreign.
smoke in his car.
And that shows his comfortability and trust in her because he's
not only
releasing
trust in
control.
her, it's releasing control, but also it's that coming to terms.
Oh yeah,
that's when they're
that
when they're identifying their guilt together.
They're equals.
Yeah.
They are,
So those are my. That's what my note says. It
superficial. Those were excellent parts of the parts of the film.
It says red car, Saab, cassette, tape deck, recording and player, and then it says smoking is cool again.
Well, it's not, but it was in that film.
All right, so I think we're at
it's cool
a good.
If you're grief-stricken.
I don't know. I think if it's cool if you're driving in Japan on a freeway
in a red Saab.
In a red Saab in the middle of the night with a sunroof. And you're talking about the death of your mother and wife.
Yeah. It was a great movie.
And you just dropped off a person who had intimate relations with your wife, too.
True. That whole part we haven't even...
Hey, that's for you to watch and talk
But
about.
that shows his control.
Yeah.
Could you imagine riding in the car with someone you know has had sex with your wife?
Oh, my gosh. That'd be like...
I mean, come on.
Dumping that body in the river.
He never even brought it up.
Well, it's in between the lines.
In that
long
monologue or conversation in the car, it's in between the lines that he understands that he knows.
Yeah,
but
that's when he lets him know he really knows.
At the same time, he shows like pent-up aggression towards him.
Yeah.
But he never comes out and like addresses it with them ever, ever, which is huge.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's good or bad. That's almost
that's what
too
I mean.
much.
I don't want to. Yeah, there's a lot of. That's what I like about it. Things aren't resolved. What one might say the most healthy way.
No.
Nothing is in this film, I think, but it is, I think, the more realistic, natural way.
But what an amazing film. I feel like different now that I've watched that film.
Yeah,
there are some films you feel different after you watch, and I feel
But like you said at the beginning of this, doesn't foreign cinema tend to do it?
Make you feel that way.
But I think
it really
does.
It's
because, like, yes, I think there are more. We see this in European countries. We see this in countries like Japan and South Korea. That there are art foundations and government grants that help push this stuff forward, where in the United States it's more Hollywood driven. You're not going to see...
Well, there's more emphasis on art, poetry, like symbolism, like stuff like that. There's just a lot more...
So is that a part of it? Probably. It's not part of this Hollywood machine. And then sometimes I think it's because it's in a foreign language and we're reading and we're kind of really in depth. I know it's a 3-hour movie, but there were people coming and going
Almost
to
like
go to
if
the
you're
restroom.
reading the lines,
Like, how
do
can you
you
miss
get
this?
more out of it? You know what I mean? Like if you're reading and listening to it,
That's what I mean.
do you get more out of it than if you're just passively listening to a film? You
So
know?
I don't know.
That's an interesting study someone should do, actually.
I'm sure somebody has written about it and digested it. But regardless, let's wrap up. The second half of our pizza is getting cold. We ate half of it while we were talking.
It's delicious. Their pizza's here's delicious.
This is our first eating and talking podcast, so hopefully we weren't too.
Hopefully I wasn't crunching
too
on
much.
my crust. Crunching on my crust.
But I think our next episode, if goes as planned, we rarely say what's next, but we're actually trying to plan.
We always say what's next. We just don't always follow through with it.
There's no way the theater will catch on fire this time, like our plan for Licorice Pizza and Red Rocket. But we're going to try to plan a 90s
night. Yes.
So maybe some 90s films will be our next episode, but no promises.
That's the plan.
All right, let's cheers. Get out of here.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.